In today's video, we're looking at whether or not you should be selling your clothing items on Poshmark or eBay. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm the Commonlad. If you're new here, I would highly recommend subscribing and hit the little bell notification. I make tons of different videos surrounding reselling and eBay, Poshmark, different sort of online ways to make money, as well as some Instagram and growth techniques, so I highly recommend sticking around for that kind of stuff. So selling clothing on eBay or Poshmark, which one's better? I've done both and I want to kind of go through which one is my favorite, the benefits of each system, and why you should choose one over another for certain items. Alright, so let's just jump right into things here, starting off with eBay for clothing. Generally as a platform, it's pretty solid. Obviously it's been kind of the leader in terms of used clothing for a long time, and I believe it still is. I don't have the actual stats since I'm just going to be talking from like my personal experience, not actual statistics as to which one has more buyers or which one has more sales in terms of that category. But eBay, as far as I know, has been the #1 place to buy and sell used clothing. It's been the place where I've bought and used clothing before and I've sold it. Couple benefits to eBay is that they have a customer service line and a money-back guarantee, two things that are really important to me when I'm shopping online for used stuff like that. They also have a pretty straightforward interface that's simple to use and it's easy to search various categories and brands when you're shopping for things like that. The listing process is pretty straightforward and can take a little bit of getting used to, but I think it's definitely doable for new sellers. And yeah, overall eBay's been one of my favorite platforms to sell on for a while. But then arises Poshmark, and they just recently, I think probably 6 months to a year ago, moved into Canada to start selling clothing. But Poshmark has come up as a competitor to this whole thing, which is very interesting because, to be honest, it kind of makes sense. There should be a specific platform for selling clothing on. So when it came out, I gave it a shot. Not only did I try buying things, but I went through the entire interface to see how it worked, as well as listing some of my own items for sale on there to see how it worked. The buying process was pretty simple. You could find products really easily, and there was pretty quick checkout. Selling things on there was really easy. I was surprised at how quickly I could put together multiple listings for different items. Now, the interface I have a couple issues with, but we'll get to that later in the video. Overall, though, I just want to start out by saying whichever platform you choose to sell on at the end of the day, I think they are both really good platforms, but now let's get into some specifics. Okay, we're going to start off with the most important thing right off the bat, which is the actual listing process for the sellers. On eBay, it's pretty straightforward. There's a couple different category systems that you go and choose from, as well as your item title, followed by the photos of your item, up to 12 photos, and then it has some item specifics as well as a description. Now, the shipping is where it gets interesting because eBay leaves it up to the buyer to actually plan out the shipping for the item. You have to enter in the size, the dimensions, and where it's located, as well as sign up different policies for every different place that your item might be shipped to. Now, after you have some experience on eBay, this is a pretty simple and straightforward process, but for new sellers this can be quite difficult. I also feel like eBay, you really have to put a lot of detail in your descriptions, and you really have to tell a lot about the product through the pictures and whatnot, and I'll get to why that's kind of different on Poshmark in a second. So Poshmark, same sort of deal. You take your pictures, you can do it right through the app, which you can as well on eBay, and you simply add a nice little item title, followed by a brief description and a few item specifics. Now, one of my favorite features that Poshmark has to offer is that the buyers on your item can actually ask questions about it. This is what I mean by where you don't have to be as descriptive, because you might be able to leave a couple things out or skip on a couple things that you don't necessarily think are important. For eBay, to ensure the sale, you always want to try to put as much details about the item as possible so people know exactly what they're getting. But in Poshmark, if it's something that people aren't always looking for, you can actually just leave it out, and then if somebody does want to know about it, you can just have them ask a question and then you can just answer it like that. I think that's part of the reason why I can do Poshmark listings so much quicker. For listings, quite honestly, Poshmark might be up there winning it. I don't know if I'm going to be able to pick a winner between the two, but Poshmark definitely has a pretty streamlined listing system. Next up, before we get to actually selling the items, I just want to talk about the general interface for a second. The eBay interface on the seller side is pretty straightforward. Again, it takes some getting used to if you are a new seller, but it is fairly simple to use. The Poshmark system, not so much. I had a lot of trouble sort of getting to know it at first, which is expected, but still to this day, I have trouble figuring out how to see my items that are for sale and how to see other people's items that are for sale and why are there people following me and how do I follow them back, and it's just a little bit confusing. Yes, I have been getting the hang of it over time, and no, I don't use the app too often, so I guess that might contribute to it, but I just find the interface to be a little bit kind of weird and dated with all the different menus, and it's a little bit confusing. And that's probably my #1 issue with the app. Like, I don't even know where to see how much money I have in my account or what's redeemable, or I don't know, it's just a little bit confusing. Of course, when you use the app more and more, you get more familiar with it, and maybe that's just my problem here, but that's just kind of my only complaint. Okay, now selling the items. First of all, I want to say that I've actually made more sales for clothing items on Poshmark than I have on eBay, which is pretty cool because it's a fairly new platform, and I was a little bit worried that I wasn't going to be able to get the same sort of volume on it because there wouldn't be as many buyers, but I find that it actually works out pretty well. From what I've heard, I think Poshmark is much bigger in the women's clothing space than the men's clothing space, so if you are selling there, I think Poshmark is definitely the better option. For men's clothing, it's still a little bit iffy, especially if it's like eBay versus Poshmark. I've also heard of sellers listing on both platforms. I'm not sure if there's any sort of policy preventing you from doing that, but you do have to be careful because if you make a sale on one and then sell the same item on another platform, you've got an issue. Once an item does sell though, on eBay, you go ahead and you can either print a label off of eBay or you can bring it directly to the post office, ship it that way, and then give the buyer the tracking number. Pretty simple process, does require a little bit of work, a little bit of calculations. You might make a little bit of money on the shipping, you might lose a little bit of money on the shipping depending on what eBay quotes the buyer, depending on if you have a Canada Post discount card. There's a whole bunch of factors that play into that. With Poshmark, however, though, it is a flat rate shipping for every buyer. I think it's $12.99 with the occasional discount that you can offer the buyer. But this is probably my favorite thing about Poshmark so far, is that the shipping is made so easy. You pack it however you like in whatever sort of envelope or box that you have, and you just simply slap the label on that they send to your email address and you're off. That's it. No entering your dimensions, no setting up different shipping calculators for different places that your item might go to. It's just one email to your address and you print it out and you're done. This has made it a no-brainer for me because for clothing stuff, I don't want to have to go through it all and have to like do all the dimensions and whatnot. I'm not a clothing seller. I just do it part-time whenever I see stuff that I think might be worth something. So I don't really like spending all the time doing it. I do it if I have to on eBay, but if I can skip it and just do it on Poshmark and it's going to sell for the same, then it's pretty good. In terms of fees, with eBay, you are paying only about 15%, I think, after everything's all said and done, plus an additional 2.9% plus 30 cents for PayPal. So you are getting a pretty good fee. That is comparatively to Poshmark, which charges you 20% of your total sale price. Now, another issue that I have is that eBay will charge you a fee on the shipping amount for the item, so you're losing money there as well. Meanwhile, Poshmark doesn't. So at the end of the day, it probably nets out to about the exact same amount in terms of fees. On eBay, you do have your money accessible right away after the item does sell. On Poshmark, you have to wait. Once the buyer receives it on Poshmark, then they can give it a review. And if they don't ever receive it, or if they don't ever review it, I should say, then your money gets automatically deposited after, I think, like 2 weeks or 30 days. But if they do review it right away, then you get your money right away, which is kind of sweet. It usually takes, again, the amount of time that it takes the item to get to the buyer. But once that's all said and done, you can get your money pretty quickly. On Poshmark, it's just direct deposit to your bank account. eBay, you can do PayPal and then go to your bank account or whatever. So I don't know, it's basically the same. The rating systems of both platforms are basically the same. You just give the seller a rating based on the performance, or out of 5 stars, and it's all pretty much the same. The only comment I have to make for Poshmark really being kind of an issue with me is for when I have issues. Everything's great until there's an issue with something, and then I have nobody to call because Poshmark doesn't have a call line. I've directly reached out to Poshmark on Instagram and gotten some very generic responses that weren't very helpful. I've tried their email lines and other sort of methods of contact, and nothing. They weren't able to help me in this one case, which is where this buyer had purchased something and I couldn't print out a label for the buyer's shipping address because it wasn't valid. So I was stuck and I had to cancel the order, and the buyer didn't know why, and the buyer still said, "Where's my money?" Like, to this day, they still don't even know where their money is. I have no idea. I didn't get it, and Poshmark won't do anything to help. So yeah, customer service with them has kind of sucked, and eBay has been fantastic in terms of customer service. Anytime I have an issue, just call them up and they're always able to help. So overall, my census on the two is that, I mean, if you're really pushing as a seller and you have to check your policies, you could try list on both. But I think in terms of if you're a new seller or just somebody that's trying to clear out their closet, I'd probably stick with Poshmark just because of the simplicity of the shipping, which I think scares a lot of people. If you can get over the sort of weird interface, at least in my opinion, then it's a fairly simple platform to use. It's really easy to do your listings. There's not as much on the line in terms of feedback. I feel like on eBay you kind of have to be a little more experienced and ready to deal with people that might be trying to, I don't know, even scam you or have issues. I don't know. It just feels like Poshmark's a little more streamlined in that sense. However, if you are an experienced seller and you do want to reach a larger audience, eBay is definitely still a great player in terms of selling used clothing. And with that all said, I think that's all I really want to say in this video. I want to keep it pretty short and concise, and hopefully you guys can find some value in this. That being said, if you guys did find some value, I would highly suggest leaving a like. Of course, I'd highly suggest it. I made the video. But if you actually did find some value, I'd really appreciate it, I should say. And yeah, like, subscribe, comment. Let me know what you guys think. Do you guys prefer Poshmark over eBay? Do you use them both for different things? What do you guys do? Let me know down below. Also, I have a Shopify video coming out very soon in the near future. I'm very excited about it, so stay tuned for that. But with all that said, I am going to end today's video there, and I will see you in the next one.